Hello and welcome. This is the most conclusive video you will ever see about the Kibo K160, the first generation. So subscribe and let's get right into it. In today's video, I will talk about the acceleration, that is the speed. I will also talk about the confidence when overtaking, the cruising speed, whether the bike has vibrations, the overall cost of ownership, Kibo after service, spares, overheating, whether the bike overheats, and the service interval. So subscribe, get me to 1000 subscribers so that I can bring you more videos like this one. And by the way, I'm in a very beautiful spot right in the middle of a forest. So we start off with the acceleration. How does the bike perform? I've written a few items so that I can remember. How does the bike perform? So 0 to 100, that is something that I would not like to mention or dwell too much about, but I can talk about the average speed. So you'll find that the bike does a speed of 0 to 120. I've done 127, but that was downhill. On a flat road, that is on the tarmac, you can do about 110 if you are alone, and the 0 to 100, that can take you about even 2 minutes. Yes, but the speed also depends on the altitude. Like for example, in these high altitude areas, you will find that the bike really struggles to gain speed. Yeah, so you can do an average of 60 kilometers per hour. I've done 74. That was in a fairly flat area. I did 74 for around 30 minutes. Yes, but my best average, or the average, is around 60 kilometers per hour. That means that you will cruise, or if you are going on a long journey together with somebody who has a motor vehicle, you will arrive at the same time, because you'll find that the Kenyan roads, most people average about 60 kilometers per hour. Now, the confidence when overtaking, I have a rule of thumb. If this bike, or if you are cruising at above 70 kilometers per hour, that is on gear 3 and 4. If you are doing above that, and you can see that there is an oncoming traffic on a fairly flat area, the bike has a lot of torque, so you can torque your way out, and you will always overtake. No matter what the situation is, you will always overtake. The bike is also big and comfortable when doing those speeds, so you will not have problems. And being that it's a Kibo, you will find that people will give you some a little respect, or will delay a little bit so that you can finish overtaking. But generally, if you are doing above 70, don't stop, continue overtaking. When it comes to that is overtaking. But something I should note about, if you are, for example, if you are in traffic and you are in first gear, so you are doing first gear and you are cruising, let's say you are waiting for a chance to overtake, and you are doing about less than 20 kilometers per hour. Most of the time you will find that you are trying to downshift. You are in first gear, but you are trying to downshift because the bike, at those very low speeds, the bike lacks some speed, and you will the reason as to why that happens is that you will not feel the engine engaging the front sprocket, or what I call the bite, because when you release the clutch, for example, there is a bite that comes in so that you can start moving. So in those very low speeds, and most of the time you will find that in first gear and in traffic you have your clutch in, because also the bike does not like those very slow speeds. So you will clutch in, a little throttle, and the bike will struggle a bit. So in that scenario, please do not overtake, not unless the road is very clear, so that you can overtake comfortably. The other thing I should note is that the bike is generally slow, because you find that the normal boarders doing about the 150 cc's, and even the 125s. For example, if you get the TVS HLX 125 and with a very good rider, you will find that that person will leave you on the road. If, for example, you are racing. Well, this bike excels. It's not even off-road. This bike is for someone who does not really want to race. Because, for example, the reason as to why I did not talk about the 0 to 100 is for one reason. In that first gear, you cannot dump the clutch. Like the way you are launching a bike, you cannot launch the bike. You cannot launch a Kibo. Reason being, the counter assembly here, or the shaft that drives the front sprocket, is very prone to wearing out. And if you are somebody who is very aggressive in launching the bike, you will find that that shaft will wear out. And when we get into the spare parts, you will see how much it costs. And if you damage that, you can be sure that not very many mechanics know how to repair Kibo. For example, when this one, and by the way, we are doing 68,000 kilometers, 710. So when that drive shaft finally got worn out, I had a challenge of getting a mechanic who really understood the bike, because you'll find that the shaft comes with the gearbox. So arranging the gearbox proved to be a little bit difficult for that mechanic, but finally he made it, and it was a good learning experience. So that is speed. Let's go to cruising. I'm referring because there is somebody who had asked in the comment section on the 70,000 kilometers review, and if you have not watched that video, kindly do. So the cruising speed, you can cruise comfortably at 80 and 90 kilometers, very comfortably, yes, and you can keep up with traffic. On downhills, I had forgotten, on downhills the bike is not limited, so you can do even up to 130, so long as there is enough area or enough distance to cover that, to gain that speed. Even on those very high speeds, I mentioned earlier that I had done 127, you will feel the engine struggling, but you will not feel the vibrations. The bike is very comfortable, you will not feel the vibrations. However, you should also note that Kibo is somehow loud, and as you can hear, the tappets or the rocker arms are a bit loud. They are a little bit worn out in this bike, and when those rocker arms and the camshaft wear out, you will find that you will have vibrations. Also note that do not raise this bike off road, because as you had seen in the other video, these engine mounts tend to break. So that is something to note. Fuel consumption, the bike averages 30 kilometers per liter, whether you are doing very high speeds or slow, or you are stuck in traffic, the bike will comfortably do 30 kilometers per liter. The cost of ownership, and in the cost of ownership, I want us to read. You can pause the video and see how much these things cost. For example, the rear sprocket, let me see, the rear sprockets cost around around 2950, that is 3000. You find that the chain is 520 112, that is 3300. The regulator, the battery is around 4000. The piston rings is around 1600. The piston itself is 3580. The spark plug is 672. What else? The gaskets, you can see the gaskets, the cylinder block. And by the way, I had mentioned that when the piston rings of this bike wear out, of which this one has worn out twice, so you'll have to change the cylinder block. The cylinder block cost around how much? Let me confirm. The cylinder block cost around 3200. So we'll change that. We will change the piston. We had talked about the piston. That is 3580. The piston rings around 1600. So you can do the math. So that is what happens. Those are the things that wear out. I've also seen Kibos with the rock arms and the camshaft wear out, so that the rock arms appear cost around 2000. I don't remember how much the camshaft costs, but generally for those two you will part around with around 3500. For example, something like this one, it might look like it's a small part, but this costs 400 shillings. So if you will leave a mechanic, or you're somebody who tries to open this thing with the pliers, you'll find that you'll have to part with 400 shillings. For this one, I left it with the mechanic and he broke it, and I was very mad. But anyways, let's get back to our video. That is the spares. The overheating. This bike consumes around 1.5 liters of engine oil. So you'll find that even when doing very high speeds, this bike does not get very hot. For example, you can see me touching the bike, and the bike has been running for 14 minutes now, and before I started it, I had just packed it. You can see that the bike does not become very hot. Lastly, let me confirm the last thing, service intervals. So I have talked about the spares. This bike, if for example I commute on this bike every day, so you will have to change the oil every month, whether it gets to the 5000 kilometers that the engine oil is rated at. Even if you get to 2500, change the oil so that the bike can run smoothly. Always check your oil level. So because you'll find that sometimes these bikes consume oil, especially if the piston rings get worn out. Be sure that they will start consuming oil. So check on that. But generally, you will just need to change the oil every month, and every 10,000 kilometers or so you can go for service. I am not very sure about the Kibo's service menu, but I feel like every 10,000 kilometers or so you can actually go for checkup. Having said that, I don't think there is anything that I have talked about. The tires, the front tire and the rear tires, you will have to part with around, these are Kenda tires by the way, around 5,000 and then 8,000 on the rear. When it comes to service, the availability of the spares, that's something you should also consider, because you will find that sometimes you will have to wait for the spares. And what do I mean? The Kibo centers used to be very many in the country, but these days they are very few. So you'll have to get a third-party person to do the logistics, whether to get the spares for you at a slight cost. The ones that know how the Kibos work, the Kibo center works, the Kibo lines are always busy, so you will have to keep calling every now and then to get your spares. But generally the spares are there, so it is just about knowing where to get them, especially if you are far away from Nairobi. But if you are around Nairobi or Mombasa, the spares are always there. You can go to the Kibo service center and get all the spares. And by the way, those Kibo service centers are very good. You will go with an old looking bike like this one and you'll come out with a very good bike, only that you'll have to part with quite some money. For example, let me talk about these indicators. 2500. These lights 8,000. Something like this one 8,000. Side mirrors 2,500. So that's it. Let me end the video there. I think I've covered all of them, but I will, after this one, I will do the things that I hate about this bike, and also the things that I love about this bike. So until next time, have a great one.